Hi, my name is Che-yen Chen, or as colleagues and friends call me, Brian Chen. I'm a viola professor at UCLA's Alpert School of Music. I'm also a member of the Ennis Quartet and the CEO of Taipei Music Academy Festival. And today I'd like to share with you my experience in exploring the Schubert Fantasy for viola and piano, originally for violin and piano. Majority of the viola repertoire is part of a chamber music setting, not in the soloistic setting. So it is wonderful for me to have the opportunity to explore the Schubert Fantasy originally composed for violin and piano. Some composers, they did their own transcription, for instance, Brahms' late Opus 120 Sonata from clarinet, or player transcribed pieces such as Beethoven's Romance. For a composer like Dvorak and Mozart, whom loved the instrument as viola but didn't compose anything in terms of sonatas or concertos for the instrument. Even Schubert, the Arpeggione Sonata was twice transcribed from Arpeggione to cello and later from cello to viola. When we look at transcription, there are basically two types. One, we stay in the key that the composer originally composed. Or if we're transcribing from violin, very often that's the case. We will put fifth lower, such as Bach's Violin Sonata and Partitas. In this case, the Schubert Fantasy stays in C major. So a good news for piano is you don't have to relearn the piece. You can still use your own score and play the piece as is. And for violas, this is a great opportunity for us to showcasing our powers of our C string, which really helps the piece come alive and making a good, compelling justification for this particular transcription. When I learned that Kevin is transcribing the Fantasy for viola and piano, of course, I put on my skeptical head and thinking that, could this work? But as I learned through the process of putting the piece together, I get to really enjoy playing the piece. And I truly believe that this will be a major addition to a viola repertoire in that genre and in that period. One of the few works that's originally for viola is Mozart's Sinfonia Concertante, but that's a duo concerto. If we want to go back to the 19th and 18th century, many of the works are borrowed. For instance, Bach's Cello Suite, or more in the Romantic period, Schubert's Arpeggione. If you want to really find a work that's originally composed for viola as a solo voice, it is less common, unless you dig into some obscure, not obscure, but lesser known composer, you might be able to find something. And I'm very fortunate that one of my dear colleague and former student, Kevin Hsu, had taken on the mission in transcribing this wonderful work. And it is truly a fantastic adaptation. Difficult, but really rewarding to learn. As a student and professional, I always heard from violinist colleague that this is one of the most difficult pieces for the violinist to play. A concertmaster of a major orchestra, he said that he tried to avoid playing this piece. And when we think about programming, this really opens up many different possibilities. One obviously choice will be putting the Schubert's Arpeggione together with the Fantasy. Both are transcribed work, but both work really well on the instrument. Or if you need a romantic or classical piece in your audition or recital repertoire, this will be a fantastic addition. It's about 25 minutes, 3 continuous movements. I can just think of many ways that this can work in that kind of setting. So I'm really happy about this new addition. And again, I truly believe that this is going to be a major new adaptation for our instrument and for our repertoire. As a violist, when we're playing a transcribed work, one thing I always think about is how do I make it sound better than the original version? Because if it's not better, then why play it? For Schubert Fantasy, obviously a lot of the parts are transcribed 1 octave lower. And one of the challenges is obviously making that sounding compelling. And thankfully, we have the open C string and the natural overtone, longer ringing quality of the instrument that really helps. One particular example, in the slow movement, the variation movement, where there are 30-second notes, you have to bounce your bow really fast. On the violin version, I imagine that it's a little easier to play those notes with clarity and more effortlessly, because it's required of the character there. You don't want to sound like you're really working hard, playing a bunch of fast notes. You want to sound like it's a tossed off section. So for the violist to play on the G and C string, you have to really find a particular bow stroke that will make that section sound with the original intent of being light and playful, but still with great clarity and quality. But what I enjoy the most is that with all these difficulty, the music is great. It's beautiful music, and it's very heartfelt. Schubert's late work, he passed away the same year that he composed that piece. You can definitely see some of the Schubert Cello Quintet in there, which is another dear piece that I really love to play. It is also really nice to be able to have an open discussion with Kevin, who did the original transcription, whether we should move this part low or up and try to make it more compelling for the instrument. And I believe that we have come to a really good final version. Another example in our attempt to make this transcription work on viola, maybe even better than violin, is in the third movement when the main theme comes back the second time after a build-up. We added the open G and open C string underneath. Once you get the music, you'll know what I'm talking about. Those are all added notes. And the reason for me to dare to change Schubert's original music is that I imagine if Schubert knows that there is the open C string on the violin, he would probably add it. And after trying it a couple times with the piano, with approval of everyone's liking, we believe that this is actually a case that can even work better on the viola than the violin. Sorry, all the violinist friends. As I work through this piece, rehearsing, practicing, and ultimately performing and sharing with the audience the first time the Schubert Fantasy on viola for piano, I feel very lucky that I got this chance to be able to do this. And realizing that this has not been done, at least that I'm aware of before. And I'm already thinking about programming more. And to my fellow violist, I can't wait to hear your interpretation of Schubert Fantasy for viola and piano.